How does the world's most grueling climbing competition work?
Teams of 2 climbers battle head-to-head at the top of the dam, which is divided into 6 sections which become increasingly more difficult as they get higher.
Teammates climb a section one by one. If one of them falls, they must restart the section or face receiving a penalty. Fastest team with the least amount of penalties wins.
Who will make it to the top first?
Hello and welcome to the Red Bull Dual Ascent. We're here in the Ticino region of the Swiss Alps on a huge concrete face of the Verzasca Dam. This is a totally unique climbing location for a competition, and we're ready to bring you guys live commentary straight to YouTube. I'm Tom Randall, and alongside me is fellow wide boy and long-time climbing partner, Pete Whitaker. Pete, this is going to be absolutely brilliant, watching some of the world's best climbers on the side of a massive dam having a race to the top.
Tom, I am excited. I'm psyched. I'm psyched to be here with you. I'm psyched to watch these climbers, and I'm also psyched that the YouTube audience are going to be following along with us. It's going to be brilliant. We're going to take you through the whole climb.
So we have 2 teams going head-to-head, racing to the top of the dam here. On the left, we have Jakob Schubert and Jesse Pilz, who are both from Austria. And on the right, we have Andrea Kumin and Sasha Lehmann, who are both Swiss competitors. So this is going to be a really interesting race, isn't it?
It's going to be very interesting. First of all, we know that Jakob and Jesse are rapid from qualifications and from the semi-finals. They were super, super quick. And then we have the Swiss team on the right. They didn't quite get as quick a time, but they played the slow and steady race, kind of putting pressure on their opponents and waiting for them to make a mistake, which was what happened in the semi-finals, and then they were able to take the victory in that, which got them through to the finals.
Yeah, so I think it's going to be really interesting watching how they tackle this first pitch here, because there is a bit of a pacing thing going on, and the first bit of climbing on this pitch, which comes in at around 6C, and that's a relatively easy bit of climbing, does give the opportunity for the teams to either race off at full whack or pace it out a little bit.
Yeah, so we can see on the left that I think they're actually pacing it out a little bit. It doesn't seem like they've gone out as quick as in the semi-finals, I wouldn't say. They haven't gone completely rapid. We can see on the left, Jesse is slightly ahead from the team Austrians, but it's really going to be a case of, I feel like, easing into it and also just seeing what the other team does, how they react, and then bringing your reactions to that.
Yeah, I had a bit of a chat to the competitors last night when they were preparing for coming back to the finals today, and there was certainly a bit of strategy play on this. And both you and I know from doing quite a bit of big wall climbing and multi-pitching together, there's a fair bit of strategy comes into this stuff, because you've got so many pitches going on this, and you've got a chance to swing leads, and you've really got to conserve energy all the way up. There's really no space for any mistakes, and you've just got to slowly pace it out.
Yeah, so it was interesting with the strategies that the Swiss team said with their interviews beforehand. It was either we're going to go full pace all the way, we're going to take it, or we're going to take it steady and wait for the competitors to make a mistake, or their third one was a secret. So I'm interested to see if they actually bring their secret strategy out. It looks like, I would say it looks like they've gone for full pace, trying to keep up with Jakob and Jesse to start off with.
Yeah, I mean, you can see one of the critical jumps there as well on screen, which is really a feature of climbing that we see quite a lot of on this dam, and is very different from what I would say is your typical big wall or multi-pitch ascent that we see on rock faces outside, where we've got this competition style, dynamic jumps, volumes, holes all over the wall, specifically set to challenge the climbers in that way. It's a very technical style of climbing.
Yeah, we don't see many dynos like on the big walls, like on, on El Cap and all these kind of places. I mean, there definitely are some. There definitely are some, but I mean, this is a smaller wall and many more dynos. As we'll see coming up, the dynos get even more technical, especially on the blue pitch, which is the next pitch. I look forward to see how the competitors get on the big sideways dyno.
So we've got Jakob here seconding up and coming up following Jesse on this first pitch. Ever so slightly ahead here on the early pitches of the route. And I don't think really you can read too much into this at this point, because there is so much to play still on the route, and just a relative lead of here 7.5 meters is basically equivalent to just a couple of seconds on this route. So it's more about not making mistakes.
It's crazy to say that 7.5 meters is just a couple of seconds, when this is actually pretty hard climbing.
Yeah, this first pitch is at 6C, which is a standard that most keen climbers who go down the wall every week will maybe max out at if they're doing things. And the next pitch coming up is a 7A, which you and I have both climbed this route ourselves a couple of weeks ago. And what did you think of the grades on this? 6C and then 7A?
I thought they were tough. I'm not going to lie, I thought they were tough for the grade. I mean, you shouldn't, for those of you who are climbers out there, you shouldn't necessarily read too much into these grades, because they were solid. You'll see here actually there's a delicate traverse which Jakob has set off on. It was interesting. I spoke to him the other day, and this was the first mistake that Jakob made on this pitch, because he clipped the draw, which is by his face there. He climbed up and then he unclipped the draw again, which is interesting, because you're in this mode of like leading and then seconding and leading and seconding. I think he was confused with what he was actually doing.
Yeah, it's so strange on this style of speed climbing when you're on the wall for so long, that all the things that you're normally doing in climbing, and you've got so much time to just work out what's going on, completely goes out the window. You're just in full auto mode. So if anything's weird and puts you off, you end up making very odd mistakes. And I think that is something that these guys face on here.
I mean, that's the thing. This mistakes, I feel like, well, we know from the semi-finals, one mistake can change everything. Because as we saw in the semis, Sasha and Andrea were a little bit behind, and then the other team made that mistake and they ended up winning. So it's going to be really interesting to see if Jakob and Jesse, who are out ahead here, can keep it up, keep this pace and not make any mistakes. We're actually approaching the crack pitch now, which I'm very excited. We're already at the crack pitch. Jakob is already close to the crack pitch. We've got somebody to second up, but it's going to be exciting, because I know that the crack pitch is something that these guys were a little bit scared about.
Yeah, I mean, I really can't believe that we're sat here in the commentary box, me and you having spent most of our climbing careers going on about crack climbing and focusing almost all of our efforts to try and get the global competition community to accept cracks into its fold. And here we are on the side of Verzasca Dam at the Red Bull Dual event, and there's a almost entire pitch of crack climbing facing these guys on pitch 3, which we've got we've got Sasha just coming up to the belay on.
So yeah, for those of you who have just joined us, we are on the Red Bull Dual Ascent here, which is some of the world's strongest climbers. We're at the finals, and it is the quickest with the least amount of penalties who are going to be crowned the Red Bull Dual Ascent champions. We're going to take you through it all, myself and Tom here, and we're just about to get into the crack pitch. Maybe a few more minutes and then we're there. But these guys have got off to a pretty rapid start, I would say.
Yeah, this is really quite impressive. We've got Jesse here, who's now doing this really delicate traversing pitch. A bit of a loop of slack laid out there from Jakob. Do you think that's intentional? Because I definitely know when I've been seconding you on anything and there's too much of a loop of slack, I go, Pete, take that thing in.
Yeah, I mean, these guys are climbing so quick here. And also, Jakob's going to be so tired at the belay, he's going to want a little rest. So maybe that's where the loop of slack has come from.
Yeah, there's actually quite a bit of strategy and technical management of gear involved with the Red Bull Dual Ascent, because not only are they having to concentrate on doing some really hard climbing, they've got to manage the ropes on both the leader, who's going first on each pitch, and then the seconder, who is coming up and following that pitch.
So just explain to me what leading is. Give us a quick debrief.
So leading, for anyone who isn't familiar with rock climbing, has done a multi-pitch climbing, is when the first climber goes up the pitch of climbing and they're clipping the rope into these metal carabiners which are attached to the wall, and these are their safety points which they would fall back down to if they had a slip. And then seconding is, kind of in the name, is a climber following the leader up the pitch, and the rope is always above them in this case. They still have to unclip the rope through those carabiners, but psychologically it's a little easier, and they also have the climber above them calling down and giving some information of encouragement and info. Yeah. Okay, so we've still got the teams relatively closely matched at the moment, and I think this crack pitch is going to be the one where we see the first deciding points here.
Slight deciding moment. In the semi-finals, we saw Jesse, I would say, really slip in that crack and potentially nearly fall out. I felt like that's where these guys could have made a mistake, the Jakob and Jesse. So yeah, it's going to be fun to see.
It's also a bit of a surprise, I think, in some ways, even though I've seen this through the qualifiers and the semis, to watch our comp climbers here in a pair of gloves.
That's a good point.
It's not a common thing, is it?
What are these gloves? Because these competitors are wearing gloves on hands. What are they actually for?
So the glove is most importantly covering the back of the hand, and this is critical for when they come up to the crack climbing pitch, because they're going to be shoving their hands and fists into the cracks on the wall and jamming them to hold themselves onto the wall. And the back of the hand is quite a delicate part of the hand, so this really protects from the friction and the pressure, and also helps a little bit with sweat as well, because the wall is pretty warm.
So I think we have a nice little image coming up of the crack pitch, so we can take you guys through it. This is going to be exciting. So the crack pitch, here we go. It's a fast start. We've got some nice face climbing, but then we get into the hand crack section. This is slightly wider, maybe trickier for those with smaller hands. Then we have the thin crack section, and again it says into fast climbing, but like you said, Tom, we've climbed this route a few weeks back, and I would say we didn't climb this fast.
We did not.
We did not climb this fast. And then for the competitors, I think it's okay. But for us, not so much. And then we get into the interesting chimney at the top. This is slippy, slippy, slippy. And we saw a couple of the competitors in the qualifiers really pushing and really struggling in that. And when you're going fast, then it can be interesting.
Oh, we've got Jesse here. Oh, you could see that Jakob was really giving some encouragement from their top, because that move out of that bottom crack section is quite a tricky one. And often the competitors are finding themselves with their hands reversed, with the thumb pointing downwards, which just is a totally non-ideal position to be throwing a big move.
Yeah, and I would say here we actually have the crux of the crack. So the crux being the most difficult part, and this is where the competitors, this is where we've seen competitors fall out of this thin hand section. And they can only just get half or 3/4 of the hand inside the crack. So it's going to be really interesting to see here what Jesse does.
Yeah, so you can see Jessie fighting hard there already, and she really can't get her hand fully into the crack. And she's just going to be squeezing with those thumbs and fingers to the absolute maximum. But the technique looks good. Oh, taking a risk. Oh, and come to the outside.
I think she had that technique dialed from the previous rounds, actually. That was how she climbed it before. And now we have Andrea on the right-hand side, squeezing those hands in. Let's see how she manages with this. The competitors were very, very worried about this section.
Yeah, I think that's been the majority of the chat that we've had with the competitors here at the event over the last few days has generally been about the crack section, what techniques everyone wants to use, and how they can possibly find a way to making each section just a little bit easier, each run up the wall. Okay, Jesse moving through from the first crack section and now onto that relatively fast section of face climbing, setting up for the last part of the crack section, which is the chimney. And
we've seen a fall. We've seen a fall in the second crack section here. This is Andrea, who's fallen off the thin hands. We knew it was tricky. We knew it was tricky. We have seen some falls there. It's going to be interesting to see what they do. So
Andrea's going to lower back down to Sasha on the belay now, and she's incurred 1 penalty point. But importantly, if she now lowers back down to the ground and goes again, she will eliminate that penalty point. But of course, she has lost some time now. So it's going to be a game of, I guess, a little bit of a game of, what did you see on the fall there? Did you see what caused that? So the top hand was high.
It looks like the right hand slipped out first and then the left hand came with it. And yeah, she was, I would say she was not low on the top hand. We know, like, when we want to use those thumbs downs jams, we want to be quite low on the top hand, and it looked like she was trying to make the move off that thumbs down jam. She was moving up on it and then potentially it slipped. We know from that one it's potentially easier to go in a thumbs up position in that top section of the crack to make that long move to the crimps above.
Okay, so Andrea's set off pretty quickly there and back into the crack section. I think that's really the only tactic that she can use here, because there is absolutely no time to be resting and delaying so that the other team get ahead too far. This really needs to stay a close race. And so going back into this crack section, she's just fallen off. I imagine she's going to be absolutely gassing on this, working at full capacity.
And we can see Jesse's got into the chimney section of the route and maybe just feeling slightly more relaxed because she knows she has a bit of time and not to go too quickly. The problem is if you go too quickly in the chimney, it's easy to slip out.
Yeah, those two sides. Well, that's another fall, unfortunately, for Andrea. Oh, that's tough.
It is a tough section, that. We know it's a tough section. We've seen people come out of it. It's going to be interesting to see what she does here. Is she going to take the penalty point, or is she going to give it another go?
Oh, it looks like she's taking the penalty point. Okay, so that's going to be an interesting choice here in terms of strategy, because for the competitors on the penalty points, then if she does not lower back down to the belay and doesn't take a rest, that penalty point will stay, and therefore they will have to hope for the other team to also occur a penalty point, so they're on even penalty points. Because at the end of the day, this race is about getting to the top of the dam as quickly as possible with the least number of penalty points.
Yeah, so we can see she has actually gone back down to the bottom. I think she's going to have to take a rest to get up this pitch.
Okay.
Looks tied in those jams. We know those volumes are very slippy. They don't have any texture inside. And when there's no texture, limited grip. We saw before it was 32 degrees out there today. It is warm. It is very warm. I don't know about you, but I don't like climbing in 32 degrees, that's for sure.
Yeah, that is absolutely roasting. I would say I would much prefer ideal climbing temperatures, maybe around 10 degrees Celsius.
Nice, and 10 degrees with a 10-mile-an-hour wind.
10-mile-an-hour wind, always the best. Jakob's already just racing off again.
Jakob was worried about this pitch, though. He was worried about the jams. So it's going to be interesting to see whether he manages to fight his way through it.
Yeah, I think a good way to really understand how tricky this section is that Jakob is a 2-times bronze medalist in the Olympics. Totally world-class climber. Oh, that was a nip.
It's warm out there.
This is
interesting.
Come on, Jakob. Squeeze that hand. all this is getting...
He's in the elevator door. That's always bad times. This is actually exciting. This is exciting. This is exciting. I think it's very, very warm and sweaty in there.
I think you're absolutely right. And I'm also wondering whether this is now the third run up the wall for these competitors, having gone through qualifiers, semis, and now into the final. And they're probably very, very tired of this style of climbing that does not suit their strengths. Because this is Sasha on the belay now, and she's incurred 1 penalty point. But importantly, if she now lowers back down to the ground and goes again, she will eliminate that penalty point. But of course, she has lost some time now. So it's going to be a game of, I guess, a little bit of a game of, what did you see on the fall there? Did you see what caused that? So top hand was high.
It just like the right hand slipped out first and then the left hand came with it. And yeah, she was, I would say she was not low on the top hand. We know, like, when we want to use those thumbs downs jams, we want to be quite low on the top hand, and it looked like she was trying to make the move off that thumbs down jam. She was moving up on it, and then potentially it slipped. We know from that one it's potentially easier to go in a thumbs up position in that top section of the crack to make that long move to the crimps above.
Okay, so Andrea's set off pretty quickly there and back into the crack section. I think that's really the only tactic that she can use here, because there is absolutely no time to be resting and delaying so that the other team get ahead too far. This really needs to stay a close race. And so going back into this crack section, which she's just fallen off, I imagine she's going to be absolutely gassing on this and working at full capacity.
And we can see Jessie's got into the chimney section of the route and maybe just feeling slightly more relaxed because she knows she has a bit of time and not to go too quickly. The problem is if you go too quickly in the chimney, it's easy to slip out.
Yeah, those two sides. Well, that's another fall, unfortunately, for Andrea. Oh, that's tough.
It is a tough section, that. We know it's a tough section. We've seen people come out of it. It's going to be interesting to see what she does here. Is she going to take the penalty point, or is she going to give it another go?
Oh, it looks like she's taking the penalty point. Okay, so that's going to be an interesting choice here in terms of strategy, because for the competitors on the penalty points, then if she does not lower back down to the belay and doesn't take a rest, that penalty point will stay, and therefore they will have to hope for the other team to also incur a penalty point, so they're on even penalty points. Because at the end of the day, this race is about getting to the top of the dam as quickly as possible with the least number of penalty points.
Yeah, so we can see she has actually gone back down to the bottom. I think she's going to have to take a rest to get up this pitch.
Okay.
Looks tied in those jams. We know those volumes are very slippy. They don't have any texture inside. And when there's no texture, limited grip. We saw before it was 32 degrees out there today. It is warm. It is very warm. I don't know about you, but I don't like climbing in 32 degrees, that's for sure.
Yeah, that is absolutely roasting. I would say I would much prefer ideal climbing temperatures, maybe around 10 degrees Celsius.
Nice, and 10 degrees with a 10-mile-an-hour wind.
10-mile-an-hour wind, always the best. Jakob's already just racing off again.
Jakob was worried about this pitch, though. He was worried about the jams. So it's going to be interesting to see whether he manages to fight his way through it.
Yeah, I think a good way to really understand how tricky this section is that Jakob is a 2-time bronze medalist in the Olympics. Totally world-class climber. Oh, that was a nip.
It's warm out there.
This is interesting. Come on, Jakob. Squeeze that hand. Oh, this is getting...
He's in the elevator door. That's always bad times. This is actually exciting. This is exciting. This is exciting. I think it's very, very warm and sweaty in there.
I think you're absolutely right. And I'm also wondering whether this is now the third run up the wall for these competitors, having gone through qualifiers, semis, and now into the final. And they're probably very, very tired of this style of climbing that does not suit their strengths. Because this is, we all know that, come on. Oh, that was just
was
made
absolutely on the limit for him. I wonder how this next crack is going to be, because interestingly, he said to me before, my palms are sweating.
I'm absolutely sweating here. Oh, I feel like I'm in the crack with Jakob, reversing my hands and flipping them around. I've got flipperoos, I've got open book openers.
So he is pumped here, and this next section is the trickiest for him. He mentioned that to me before he set off on the route, that this thinner section is the hardest section for him. So let's see how he does here.
Okay, so really he wants to be sliding as deep as possible into the crack and getting those hands in. And you can see he's actually working a few of those little edges inside the crack. So to the viewers, it'll be quite hard to see, but actually inside of the crack are there some very small features that the route setters have inserted inside that give just an extra little bit. Oh, I thought he was off there for a second.
That was on the limit for him, wasn't it? That was on the limit on that bottom crack. It was. He got through that well with experience, I think. Just grimacing and getting the job done.
Yeah, I mean, Jakob's just incredibly experienced competition climber, competing all the way through the junior series, senior series, multiple World Cup wins, and this is the kind of experience which makes the difference.
I really think it is, yeah, and we saw that. I wonder how much that's going to have taken out of him for the remainder of the pitches, though. I mean, we know he's an athlete. He is an athlete, but it's going to be interesting to see. I think it will have taken a toll, and especially with the heat today as well.
Yeah, I mean, the pitches here, we've got 6 pitches up the wall, ranging from our 6C at the first intro pitch through to 8B at the top. And for reference, when we're talking about most of these grades, it's probably a standard which the general climbing population who do this as a hobby and interest, perhaps 0.001% of the climbing population can get up one single pitch alone. Yet these guys are stacking these back to back with basically no rest between any of them, having to manage ropes and climb in temperatures which are, as you said, very, very hot. I would not be happy at 30 degrees. I'd want an ice cream up there.
I'd want more than an ice cream. I want a flaming ice bath. So we're coming into the chimney section now here. What do you think of chimney climbing? Do you like chimney climbing? These guys like chimney climbing?
I do like a bit of chimney climbing, and I actually think that a lot of comp climbers have the basic background towards this chimney climbing, because so much of the climbing they do in competitions is quite a 3D nature, and they're pushing and pulling between these opposing surfaces. So in some ways, we can see this style of climbing maybe plays a little bit more to their strengths. You can see Jakob is really comfortable on that, and when I chatted to him the other evening, he did say that this was a bit of a preferred section for him and wasn't providing too many difficulties, which we've just seen very straightforward for him.
Maybe we'll see in the future Jakob going into chimney climbing if he enjoys it so much.
Never say never, Pete.
Never say never. Never say never.
I mean, I never thought I'd see a set of cracks.
I never thought I'd see them in a chimney. No. It's nice to see Andrea's got through that bottom section, and she has kept the penalty point, but she is into the chimney section.
Quite a scary section, I thought, here, actually, on this chimney, where you've got a clip quite a long way above that lower bolt, where the rope's going to catch you if you fall, and you're in really quite a precarious position, because the friction on either side of those volumes is terrible. It's like glass. I've never done a chimney as slippery as that in my life, even climbing buildings. This is about as bad as it gets, or it's about as tough as it gets.
It is, yeah. And like you were saying, with those runouts between the clips, I think on this purple pitch, it might not be that easy to see for the viewers, but on some of that central climbing, which was classed as the fast climbing, some of those runouts are quite far. If you fell off clipping one of the draws, you'd see a competitor take a big monster whip, that's for sure.
Yeah, I think there is definitely a psychological aspect to the climbing on this, especially if you've got some climbers who don't specialise in this multi-pitch route climbing style. For example, with Andrea there, she is much more of a boulder specialist.
Yeah.
And I would say that coming into this discipline as a non-route climbing specialist definitely puts you on the back foot, and really impressive how well she's got on so far in this competition and through to the finals in a style which isn't her personal specialisation.
Yeah, and also we say bouldering, I mean, this is multi-pitch climbing, so we're actually doing lead climbing and then lots of lead climbs stacked on top of one another. And it's not just the difficulty of stacking all the pitches, we've got that exposure as well, which I feel like some of these climbers probably aren't used to. But with this, they're probably so focused on the climbing that maybe they're not thinking about too much about that.
Yeah.
But let's have a look at how these routes were actually created on the side of the dam.
Yeah, big job, and many days of work went into establishing this incredible looking competition on the side of the dam.
This is the world's longest artificial climbing route. Built on the Verzasca Dam in Switzerland.
It is 180 meters high and split into 6 really hard sections.
The higher they climb, the harder it gets.
Designed by some of the best climbers in the world, the identical routes have over 1,000 holes. It took a crew of 14 builders over 2 weeks to complete.
Who will make it to the top first?
It's a great question by me. Who will make it to the top first, Tom? Predictions. We love a good prediction at Wide Boys.
Oh,
So-
Pete, you can't do this to me. Predictions mid-competition. Okay, you put me on the spot here. We've got Jakob and Jesse currently in the lead, and they're part of the way up the 4th red corner car pitch. I'm gonna have to say that at the moment I would favour Jakob and Jesse to maintain a lead at least through to the finish, where we know there's a surprise waiting from the route setters, and they've got so much experience in this style of climbing as well. But I feel like that's going to put them in a strong position in this final.
They might look like they're in a strong position, but I'm going for the Swiss team of Andrea and Sasha.
You're going Switzerland.
Because they put pressure in the semi-finals and they made their opponents make that mistake.
That's very true. They are the comeback.
They're the comeback kings and queens. So I think that's what we're going to see today. You can stick with your prediction, but I'll go with mine, and
Nice.
I know I'm going to be.
No, you're going to be right, aren't you?
Yes.
Okay, we will see.
Let us know in the
We will
comments,
see.
folks. Let us know in the comments who's going to be right. Who's going to be right.
Please let it be me. Sasha climbed that crack section really well there. I was very impressed with that.
And now he's racing, isn't he? He is really racing.
He's moving really fast. And you know what? It might just play to their advantage a little bit here with a couple of those falls from Andrea, and Sasha will have actually ended up being a lot more rested. Because I think there is a temptation to go out super fast and push so hard from the outset that the heart rate grows so high and you start overheating that everything relatively feels even worse. So I don't know, there's a lot to play for here still, and we could see really quick seconding from Sasha, and he may well go straight into that red corner car pitch and maybe take a chunk out of that lead that the other team have at the moment.
I honestly can't believe how quickly he's just climbed that section. Our little graphic said it was fast climbing, and that's just proved it for us. Because that was quick.
I think it might be the quickest I've seen any competitor.
It was the quickest we've seen any competitor climb that, yeah. He was rapid up there.
Okay, so we've got Jesse seconding up the second part of that red corner card pitch, which is much more of a stamina pitch, I would say. It's very much our standard comp style climbing, no massively hard move over any other, but there's a bit of a sting in a few of the holds on that red corner card pitch because there's this issue of the no text hold.
Yes, there is a bit of a sting about 3/4 of the way up the pitch. It's what we call no or dual textured holds, and that's where there's no texture on the hold, and we've got about 4 of those holds all in a row. And they come as in the form of undercuts, side pulls, and in today's heat, they're going to be slippery, let's face it. I do, however, think that these climbers, they're very, very used to these types of holds. So, like we see these red holds, these on this corner card pitch, these are what we would see in your normal climbing competitions, in the World Cups. And so I think they're used to that style. But it can always throw in a few little surprises, can't it?
Yeah, you just never know with these competition style events because you've got such a variety of moves, and that was one of the things that I enjoyed so much about climbing this route with you a couple of weeks ago when we were here with the First Ascent team, and getting to just see the fun and the dynamic moves, and then some extremely delicate, very technical, and really you've just got to be such an all-rounder climber to be able to do this thing all the way from start to finish with 0 falls. And now this year they threw in a crack as well, so
They've really surprised.
and that definitely played to mine and yours advantage, yet we both fell quite a few times on this route.
Yeah, it is not an easy route. These guys make it look relatively straightforward, and some of these holds, they make them look good, but they're really not.
They're really not. I wish they were better.
Yeah. So for those of you who have just joined us, we are on the Red Bull Dual Ascent. We're on the finals, and we have the 2 teams racing up the side of the dam. We've got Jakob and Jesse on the left, and we have Andrea and Sasha on the right. Currently, Jakob and Jesse are in the lead, but in the last couple of pitches, crikey, we've seen Sasha going for it, haven't we? Just really trying to shorten that lead down. It's really impressive, actually.
Yeah, he's really trying to take a chunk out of that current lead there, and you can see him just trying to manage what us climbers call the pump in our forearms when we're climbing. And really the limiting factor for us a lot of the time is the fatigue that we feel specifically in our forearms, and you may well see the climbers shaking out their hands, or one climber patting on the forearms of the other person at the belays whilst they're waiting, trying to recover. So you can
There we go, we can actually see that there.
Perfect timing. Thank you, Jakob, giving a little example of that.
I think Jakob was getting Jesse to feel how solid his forearms were. Because when we get more pumped out, they get filled with lactic acid and they become solid.
Yeah, and you get very fatigued. I was just looking at Jakob's forearms there, they look bigger than my thighs.
Absolute monster, absolute monster.
Oh, he's really moving, isn't he, Sasha? I think he's going for bust here. He's going all out.
I think they have to now, though.
Yeah,
They have
absolutely.
to really catch up on that time.
And the other thing strategically here is, the other thing that is really important here is that we can have Sasha go all out on a pitch, because he then gets the rest of Andrea seconding him and then having to lead through. So tactically, there is a fascinating element of what you can use the wall to sort of pressure and force a little bit of a mistake competitors you're going against.
So we've got a new pitch here. these yellow holds. This is a bit more of a bouldery pitch, so not quite as pumpy and endurance-like as the red pitch below, but has harder moves, I would say. Maybe a few more rests, harder moves. We'll actually see maybe some of the competitors using a cheeky little rest higher up. But the two cruxes of this pitch are this toe catch and then a mantle a little bit higher than where Jessie is now. I think she's going to take a little rest here with a hip. There we go. You can see a little rest. That's another little crack.
That's a crack move. This has been a little surprise crack move that we've seen from the competitors, realising they can create opposing forces between two holds with other parts of their bodies, so they can actually get some rest on their hands and their forearms and just recover a little bit. And we've also got Jessie now coming up towards what is a critical move on this pitch, on the yellow Ascona Lorcano pitch, where you've got this huge yellow volume that has seen a few mistakes.
We have seen some mistakes here.
And in fact, I might be right in saying that there was a change in the lead in the semi-finals as a result of a mistake in this part.
There was. We saw a fall just on the next move in the semis, which put Sasha and Andrea into the finals. So let's see how Jessie does on this next section.
Okay, we've got Andrea there completing another one of those dynamic moves, jumping and catching into two holds. Okay, so let's see how Jessie tackles this move here now. So we've got either a big press move or a reach over the top to a blind hold. Really tricky move, that one.
And we still have like a mantle coming up here. That's where the climbers have to press with their arms and rock over onto their feet.
Nice. Geil.
Not easy, that.
No, I fell off that move and I tried it, must have been 5, 6, 15 times. Something like that. It looks straightforward, but after you've climbed 4 very hard pitches of climbing to get to that point, it's not easy at all. And for these competitors, the route grades are a margin below their absolute limit, most of them having climbed around A standard for route climbing. But when you stack these things back to back in 30-degree heat and racing up the wall, it's total.
It's stacking them together, isn't it?
It's an all-out effort, and you can just look at the heart rates of these competitors going to the wall. We saw in qualifiers 180, 190 plus, and that's an indicator of how hard they are.
That is a high heart rate. That's very, very high. They are totally going for it. Yeah, when you stack these pitches together, it's a marathon, isn't it? But it's like you're sprinting a marathon.
Yeah. That was the comment that I got from Jakob when we were chatting to him, saying that it felt more like going for a 400-meter sprint around the pitch, or rather around the oval at the athletics track. If I remember rightly, I think he'd made some comments about trying a 400-meter sprint recently and had stopped at 200 meters because it was too much. So I don't know if Jakob's been doing his running training, but when it comes to climbing, he's absolutely in his element.
He is, yes. And he's following this yellow pitch now. This is in Jakob style. I'm not expecting any surprises here. I think he will race through this. But it's really at this next pitch, the orange pitch, that we're going to see. I think we'll see them slow down a little bit, actually. Have a little think on this final pitch, because the final pitch has some changes to it, to the qualifiers and the semi-finals, because they've currently climbed the route twice, so they know these moves, they know the holds, but this final pitch I think could throw in a few surprises for them.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a spicy finish into this competition event, because on pitch 6, the contra pitch, which is the orange one right at the top of the wall, maximum exposure, and where the climbers have got the greatest level of fatigue, the route setters have come back and changed a whole number of sequences. So originally they were climbing around a 8A standard to finish the route off, but now they've been adjusted into 8B. And even for these competitors, 8B is not a grade a million miles off what they'd be having in qualifiers in some of their international competition climbing. So objectively, it's a pretty good grade. You're doing right top of the wall and 30-degree heat.
And it's going to be tough for them right at the top and also reading those sequences.
Because they don't know what's coming up.
They don't know what's coming up. They have an idea, but they don't know exactly what's coming up. And it's actually very difficult for them to read the route beforehand or see the route, because the route is so big and you can't see a great deal from the top of the dam.
No,
you can see the climbers moving, but you can't see the holds or what they're like, exactly what they're like. So it'll be a little surprise, a little present for them when they get there.
I did see Jakob out with his binoculars there.
Did you?
This morning. Yes.
He's a true competitor, isn't he?
He knows his strategies.
He knows his strategies.
I don't think that surprises me at all that he came through into this final in a really strong position with Jesse, having qualified, or rather than the semi-finals, in 46 minutes. Quite a few minutes faster than their teammate competitors here on the finals, but still he's using every possible advantage, and even said he wanted to go faster than he was. For anyone who has just joined us, we have some of the world's best climbers racing up a giant dam here on the Verzasca Dam in the Chimney region of Switzerland. And the first to get to the top are going to be awarded as the Red Bull Dual Ascent winners.
And at the moment, we have Jakob and Jesse leading the race. But as we know, just one slip can change it all. It really can. Like we saw in the semi-finals, one slip can switch those positions around. So it's tense going into this last one, actually.
Yep. Everything here is about no mistakes at all from Jakob. And he has to read the sequences absolutely perfectly. There is no margin actually here. The grade is too high, and you can see him coming into this critical mono sequence, so single fingers holding onto these holds, and he's got to read the sequencing of those hands just right, otherwise it's just a totally impossible sequence. Okay, so he's completed that mono sequence well so far, but there's two more very hard move sequences coming up.
There's a critical jump for Jakob going to the left, and we know that the setters have removed a crucial foothold from the previous round in this, so it'll be interesting to see whether will make that judgment on his jump. And then right at the end we have the huge dyno for Jakob. It will be going out to the right. So let's just see if he can keep it together on these moves, because as we know, when you're very, very tired, it's tricky to make those coordination type moves.
Yeah, I can already see they've removed one of the holds here that's a setup for this big dynamic jump, which means that resting beforehand is just so much harder. And with these dyno style moves, if you're too pumped, it just doesn't matter how well you hit that hold. Your hands are going to just uncurl from the hold, and it's game over. So let's see the setup. So smoothly.
He did do that very nicely. He did that very nicely. We still have a few more moves coming up. These holds are different.
Oh, do you see that? A tactical blow on the hold. So that is such good team play from Jakob. I think he was blowing back down on the hold, trying to clear the dust, which sometimes
For
collects.
Jesse.
Yeah, for Jesse. That was really nice team play. So he's got a little bit of spare time here, so he's starting to do things which tactically will put him in an even stronger position to hopefully maintain that lead, because, as we said, it's just zero mistakes here. They cannot afford them.
So now we have it's an exciting dyno out to the right. A big, big jump. It's a crowd pleaser, this one, I would say.
Look at that exposure as well. Oh, when I was here at the top of the dam,
Would you be gripped?
I was not looking down.
There he goes.
No, there he is. Such a veteran with this kind of stuff. Just so cool with everything, isn't he? A few little mini jugs to finish up the wall, grabs the railings, and now he just needs to come up to this finishing block and clip in. Oh, that's just that's an incredible time there. 42 minutes and a few seconds, topping out the Verzasca Dam from Jakob Schubert. And that just means he has to bring up Jesse.
All down to Jesse.
Second now. And
It's a no-mistake situation.
it's absolutely a no-mistake situation. Jessie, if she incurs even a single penalty on this route, puts them back on a completely even footing, and it will be back down to a race to top the time basis as well. So what do you think Jessie's going to be doing for tactics now? Do you think she's going to be taking a rest before going?
I think she'll take a small rest. I think that would be a good decision. And I think Jakob is going to be shouting down with lots of knowledge, lots of beta. What did he find from the route? What did he find that was different from the semi-finals? And how that affected it, how much more difficult it is. I think we'll hear a lot from Jakob shouting down to Jessie.
It's just checking her knot there, making sure she's good for the last
You
pitch.
want your knot to be good.
You definitely want your knot to be good. So I wonder whether we're going to see some cooling down of information from Jakob.
She's not resting that long.
No, I think she's just going to go for it, isn't she?
She's an athlete. This is the bronze medalist at the Olympics we're talking about.
Yeah, but it's 8B, and that's still really hard. A really big committing move on that first move, straight off the belay as well, which has been changed from the semi-finals and the qualifiers, which had a much more steady move there. So high commitment right from the start on this finish. Come on, Jessie, let's just see this nice and steady. Okay, so we have Andrea and Sasha on the right, and we have those guys on the yellow fifth pitch, the Ascona Lorcano, 7C plus, a very, very pumpy pitch, and they're also going to be coming into this last pitch of the Contra 8B, extremely fatigued as well.
They are going to be extremely fatigued.
To put it lightly.
To put it lightly, they're going to be extremely fatigued.
Okay, Jessie just coming up to that flat side pull and then setting up for what will become the first big dyno, where I think the pressure is going to really be on to maintain perfection, not have any faults or penalties incurred.
You can see that Sasha has slightly slowed the pace.
Nice. Richtig gut.
And using the little crack rest and then blasts off again. Those few little shakes.
Oh, was that just a little slip there from Jessie? Ooh, I think
She's looking.
she missed the hold the first time, I think, and managed to catch back down to that hold that she was matched on, which is not an easy move because the foot is in a bad position. So I think she's very pumped.
Yeah, I wonder if we'll see a replay of that.
So just unclipping the rope before going for this dynamic move, because that would cause a lot of issues if she tried to do this dynamic jump and the rope was still clipped into that quick draw below her, and would possibly also result in a penalty. Okay, so Jakob shouting down some advice for that dyno setup. I wonder whether he's told her that he's cleaned the hold. It's no longer full of...
Okay, let's see how she does here. Oh, that was nicely done.
Yeah.
Yeah, they make that look easy. It's not, is it?
It's a really hard move.
It's not easy.
That's another move that I fell off multiple times. I'll be honest, Pete, I nearly gave up when I was coming up on that pitch. Okay, so Jessie seconding up here. She has completed that really hard mono move right at the bottom. The first super technical committing dyno move. And there is one really big... That looked close. She has one really big move still to commit to here, jumping out to that horn with maximum exposure over the edge of the dam, and one that still you've got to have something in the tank for.
Sasha's actually caught up. He's on the last pitch now. He's on the mono moves.
Come on.
And if Jessie did make a mistake here and had to go back down to the bottom of the pitch, it really would be game on.
Oh, it'd be all to play for.
It'd be all to play for.
Which is why there's so much pressure on Jessie here now. This is... She cannot have any errors here. So it's going to be full commitment. I think we're going to see both hands going all out on this. I don't know whether she needs to unclip that quick draw before she does this move as well. That looked a little close.
You can tell from her arm, actually, she's pumped. I would say she's pumped for sure, but it was well held because you get thrown out from the wall on that move.
Yeah, that's just incredible there. Jessie just reaching up into the railings, up onto that top finishing box, and that is Jakob Schubert and Jessie Pilz topping out in 48 minutes at the top of the Verzasca Dam. This is the Red Bull Dual Ascent King and Queen.
These are the champions.
These are the champions.
It was impressive. I'm not going to lie. That was very, very impressive.
Oh,
48 minutes.
I mean, that was exactly the same, almost exactly the same time that they topped out in the semi-finals, but with even more fatigue and hotter temperatures. That's just incredible.
And a more difficult last pitch.
Yeah, a much more difficult
last pitch.
Really just tells you how much these guys are just incredible competitors and totally world class. I mean, got the bronze medals in the Olympics.
Jakob with 2 bronze, Jessie with 1 bronze.
So we've got Sasha here, who has, I think he's completed the first big, yeah, he's come through the first big committing dyno, and he's reaching into the second big dyno move here. Again, I can see some fatigue coming to that last move, so he's going to have to hold this together again as well. Oh, that was close as well. And you can see they've turned that jug at the end down to the diagonal, so it's much harder to hold, even if you catch it with both hands. It looks like a decent hold, but it will not be.
That's a really impressive performance by Sasha as well. He was racing up there to try and bring up that time, wasn't he? It's very, very impressive. Just Andrea to come up. You can see it on their faces there. Worked to the absolute maximum here.
And that's an amazing time as well from Sasha, just topping out at 50 minutes there. And in his semis as a team, they're at 64 minutes, so taking a huge chunk of time off their ascent up the wall, with even more fatigue as well. It just shows how much these competitors push each other and are so competitive when you've got this pressure of racing against someone else next to you on the wall. It just makes it so exciting, and I think it just makes for such a fun ascent when you're doing this in speed style.
It's been an exciting watch for me, that's for sure. And it's great fun just watching the strongest climbers do what they do best. Because honestly, they make it look easy.
And it is absolutely not. So we've got Sasha's topped out now, and we have Andrea seconding up this pitch, who has had a little bit of rest now, so she should feel a little bit less tired, but we still have to see no mistakes, hopefully, to be able to get to the top of the wall. And she's got 3 hard sequences here with the single mono moves on single fingers, and then 2 dynamic moves.
It'd be great to see a clean climb to finish it off. Climb with no falls.
I think
This is a hard move.
Yes, nice.
It's the bouldering strength coming through there, or the bouldering coordination, I really feel like. That's something you would see in the bouldering comps, those types of moves, those step-ups, those dynamic styles of climbing, which I think is really unique for this competition because we've seen so much of it, but on a lead climb, and not just on a lead climb, but on this big multi-pitch route. You just don't see that much, do you?
No, and it's what makes everything about the Red Bull Dual Ascent so unique in terms of a multi-pitch climb, because it is nothing like, in some ways, the climbing that we climb on rock faces outside, because of the dynamic, technical and problem-solving nature of it. and there just aren't really any easy sections, and everything's incredibly shouldery and physical. And I know when both of you and I got to the top of this route, we were worked.
We were worked. Yeah.
My shoulders hurt for a few weeks afterwards, I can tell you that.
Could you imagine if you found a big wall that had this style of moves on for so long?
I'd like a few more cracks.
A few more cracks would be nice. Definitely a few more cracks would be nice. I wonder if we can have a few more cracks on this next year.
I think we'll see more cracks. I think it just makes that long move there again.
Come on.
Choosing to clip mid-move, that's really tricky moves, these, because these big open grey balls that you have on the wall are not positive at all, and in 30-degree heat they just don't offer that much friction, and this upper part of the wall in the dam is pretty overhanging. It's a sort of scooped shape, isn't it, up the wall, where they had pitches 1 and 2, which are quite slabby, and then a vert middle section, and then really overhanging this last part where got all the fatigue and the hardest grades. I mean, every time I've gone to the top of the dam and looked over, I thought, this is steep.
Yeah, it is. It is steep. It is steep at the top, for sure.
See this big dynamic move.
Again, the bouldering ability coming through there. I really feel like.
Andrea now be happy that she's got through that really hard, powerful, technical bottom section, and just one more dynamic move to keep everything together at the finish. And it's really about using maximum efficiency on all these moves, because there are no good holds or jugs at the end here. Every hold is designed to just push you a little bit deeper into fatigue. It's just, just pushes you so hard. That last final jug.
See how she sets up for this. I think she's going to take a little bit of a rest here. Just prepare, both physically and a bit of mental preparation, I feel like, for this last jump is needed. I mean, they have done jumps on the dam, but this is for sure the biggest one. I thought she was going to hold that one-handed. And we can see how difficult that jump is. We can see how difficult that jump really is at the end.
I know.
Especially when you're tired.
Yeah.
It's a long way. It's a long way. And like you say, the route setters have tilted the jug so it's not completely flat. So it's slightly sloping away from you.
And also, this is a sort of style of move where the taller you are, the greater the distance that you're going to reach between the two holes, and the shorter you are, then you've just got to jump so much further for that last move. So Andrea pulling through on that move now, taking another penalty point to top out on this route and join her partner Sasha Lehmann at the top of the Verzasca Dam.
And these guys take second place. Congratulations as well to these guys.
Absolutely
amazing
brilliant.
Performance.
Just so impressive, the time that they've climbed this dam in, both under an hour to do this thing.
It took you 2 days, Tom.
It took me and you 2 days.
2 days.
Dam. And we've done a lot of climbing over the years.
And they've done it under an hour.
And I'd go as far to say is we were trying to go relatively fast as well, and we still took 2 days.
Ah, fantastic.
I'd like to say that that says a lot of poor things about me and you as climbers, but really I'm going to say this says a lot of very good things about these competitors, how fast they are. Okay, so we have absolutely loved being on the YouTube live today with all of you guys listening, and congratulations once again to Jessica Pilz and Jakob Schubert as the winners of the Red Bull Dual Ascent Dam. It has been so good today, and Pete, I think we couldn't have had much more of an enjoyable job here, really, could we?
It's brilliant. Yeah, I want to say thanks very much to you, Tom, for sharing the box with me. Thanks very much to everybody who has been watching along and seeing the climbers climb up the dam. And again, congrats to the new champions. And we'll see you all